Welcome back to part 2 of our video on preparing web-based materials. In this part of the video, we're going to explore some advanced features of creating a web page. If you remember in part 1, we explored the fundamentals of web-based design, and we did a pretty good job of creating a fundamental web page that would serve us well as an instructional resource. But now we're ready to expand on the features and options of Microsoft Word. And we're going to do it again by continuing to make our dinosaur web page even better. In part 2, we're going to investigate enhanced features that bring life to the web pages and offer a few tips on the best practices for distributing web pages to your learner. So those will be the two elements that we'll cover now. Pictures, text, and hyperlinks downloaded from the internet can really spark student interest in support of the learning objective of the lesson. Hyperlinks in particular are important because they're going to allow us to access content, remedial and enrichment activities, and offer our students new venues for research and exploration. You can see the things that we're going to be talking about as far as inserting onto a web page. The content will include pictures, text, hyperlinks, tables, email links, and then we'll end by talking about how to save and print the web page. We'd like you to continue to practice these new features as they're introduced using the same dinosaur web page created in part 1 of our video. And as each of the enhancement features are reviewed and introduced, go ahead and practice with them. Remember now, you'll begin by bringing up the dinosaur web page that we used in part 1 of the video. We're going to start by inserting pictures onto our web page, and it's done in much the same way as it was done in a text-based document. If you remember, when we cut, copy, and pasted the Practice Dinosaur homepage, it did not have the pictures of the dinosaurs in it. And that's because those pictures were captured separately into a folder that you should have, that was part of the save when you saved your web page the first time. So those pages are around, but it doesn't matter whether you use our dinosaur that you see here or you go out and get your own. Let's just talk about how we're going to do that. In inserting pictures onto a web page, you're going to start by positioning the cursor on the web page exactly where you want the image to appear. Once you click that, then you'll go up to the menu at the top using the pop-down menus. You'll click Insert, Picture, and then find Online Pictures. You'll be able to either access a picture that's on your computer or maybe go out and get a picture that you find on the internet. Once you click on the picture, that picture will load onto your web page, and then you can resize it, you can move it, you can make it bigger or smaller, you can do whatever you want to do with it. Resizing is done typically, as it has in the past, by grabbing one of the anchors that you see around the picture and stretching it either vertically or horizontally, or both. Also, you can use the same left, center, right, and justify functions that work with text to move your picture to the left side of your page, to the center, to the right, whatever you want to do. Actually, justify doesn't make a whole lot of sense in this case, but it is an option. Okay, so inserting pictures is very simple. You've done it a dozen times when you did your text-based materials, and it works the same way here when inserting a picture onto a web page. Inserting text onto the web page is also fairly easy to do. Again, you start by positioning the cursor on the web page where you want the text to be copied into. Okay, and then you're going to do a couple of different things. You can open up a browser session if the text that you want is on a web page, like the example that you see here. You could open up a Word document if the text that you want to copy is in a Word document. Wherever the source is for the textual information, go ahead and open that, that file, and then you're going to cut, copy, and paste that text onto the web page that you're creating. Okay, so again, position the cursor, then open a browser session or a Word document or wherever your text is. Select the desired text, either online or in the document. Copy that text. When you do that, remember you're copying it to the clipboard. Bring your web page back up and paste that text into a web page. Very, very simple. Additional directions are available in Chapter 8 of the textbook if you need more help. But again, fairly comfortable that you've done this several times, so you should know how to do that. The next thing we're going to insert onto the page is a hyperlink. And of course, hyperlinks connect web pages to other internet sites. The use of hyperlinks avoids many of the problems associated with having your students exploring the World Wide Web, such as sending them to invalid sites, typing problems that make entering long URLs, web addresses, difficult. But most important, by putting those hyperlinks right onto your web page, you avoid what I call the dark side of the internet. And so it's a much safer process for your students to get out to sites you want them to visit. Now, the example that we have here shows 4 websites that we're going to have the students explore, and inserting hyperlinks is very simple. First of all, you highlight the text that's going to become your hyperlink. Okay, remember, it could be text, but it could also be an image. Okay, if you wanted to use this little dinosaur down at the bottom of the slide here as a link, you could do that. Okay, but either way, you're going to identify the link or the image that will serve as the hyperlink, and click on it, select the image. Once you've done that, then you go up to the menu at the top. You do an insert, find the pop down for links right there. You can see it. And then under the links, find the pop down for a hyperlink. And this will display this window that you see on our slide. And here is where you would enter the address of the hyperlink, of the location that you want the hyperlink to go to. Remember now that the hyperlink, if you're going to send the student to the internet, out to the web, that link must start with http://. Okay, that lets the browser know that this web address that you're putting here is actually a internet location, a web address. Okay, if you forget to put the HTTP in front of it, what's going to happen is when you launch your web page and you click on this link, it's going to try to find that web address on your computer. Okay, and of course it's not going to find it. Okay, so be careful when you're entering the address that if it's actually an internet site, start it with http://. And again, if it's not starting with that, you can also create a link to any file on your computer. This is how you could link your web page to a hyperbook or a web page to a interactive lesson. Okay, you can do that by simply not putting HTTP in front, putting the file name or clicking on the file name that you see in the pop-down folders here, in the pop-down, and that's how it will go directly to the file that's on your computer. but it better be there. Okay, it's not going to look anywhere else. If it can't find the file name that you've put in there, it's going to come back and it's going to tell you it simply can't find the link. Okay, so hyperlinks again are fairly simple, not too difficult to do. Insert, links, hyperlink, and fill in the address in the dialog box. The next bit of content that we'll want to look at is inserting tables onto a web page. Tables are an easy way to organize the information, especially on web pages. If you try to do this by tabbing over, using those tabs to indent these things into creating columns, it doesn't always work. Excuse me. Sorry about that. It doesn't always work on a web browser. So you need to use tables to line up your content as you see on here on the slide. And the way you do that, again, you follow the same process. You position the cursor where you want the table to appear. You go up to the online, go up to the menu at the top, and you insert a table. And when you do that, you're going to get this matrix that forms up here, so that you can create a table with rows and columns as you see fit. You'll be able to change those later, but it's always a good idea to try to lay out your table before you try to insert a table on the screen, because actually adding cells and rows and columns is not too difficult, but it is something that would be best avoided if you can do that. So go ahead and insert your table, and then you can start filling in the cells. Okay. So again, tables very, very useful. On the next area here is inserting an email link into a web page. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, at the bottom of your web pages, we're recommending that you create this thing called an address block. It has the name, your name in there, what school you're with, maybe the email address of the school, but also, and this is obviously your choice, your email link. So a student might want to send you an email, may want to send you information, may want to ask you a question. Whatever it is, this is a good place to create an email link to yourselves. Email links are made possible by creating or inserting an email address. Okay, and then once the link is there, you can change it a little bit, but it works the same way as inserting a hyperlink with one small little change. For example, here you go. Position the cursor on the web page where you'd want it to appear. Type in your email address there. It won't be a link, but type it in just like you see it, Brown at or Tome at or whatever it is. And then highlight that like you would if you're going to try to create a link on anything. Go back up to insert a link and a hyperlink, but now here's the change, okay? Instead of starting it with http:// like we explained on the previous feature, you're going to instead begin your email address with a mail to, all one word, MAILTO, ://. Okay, again, no spaces in there. And then followed by your email address. And when you do that, then what you're going to get is it's going to turn that link into a hyperlink. Okay? And when the student clicks on that, it will launch their email server, and they'll be able to send an email to you without having to copy your email address. So it's a very effective way to create or insert an email address on your web page. Okay? All right, so those are the key features for creating enhanced elements on your web page. Now again, we're not done yet. Okay, this is creating web-based materials, kind of a primer, the basic features of web design. Later in the course, we're going to be looking at using these features of web-based design to create something called a virtual tour. Much more exciting, much more of an entire lesson that you would do using web. This is more of a single web page that you can help your students do some exploration and research, and maybe look at one particular learning objective that you might want them to do. The virtual tour is going to be the real expanded version of what we're covering here. The last thing we're going to cover before we finish is saving the web page and printing it. We've already learned how to save a web page, so this is just another reminder that you can use the file save command to save your page as an HTML file, as a web page. After you insert the pictures, after you insert the text, after you put in a hyperlink or an email link or a table, before you start moving on to putting in more content, save the file. Every time you do something major like that, you got all this new text that's in there, save the file. You've got the pictures in there, save the file. Okay? So this is just a reminder here to save the web page often. Okay? And then the final thing that you can do is you can preview the page and print it. Of course, after you have saved it, you can go into your folder that has the saved web page, click on it, and it will launch your browser. We've already talked about this. But it will launch your browser, and you can see how the document or how the web page is going to look. Okay? And if you don't like it, then go back to Word, go bring up your web page again, and make the changes. I know when I get to this point of having most of my information already in the web page, I'll have the Word document on the left side of the page. Think of it as your source code. And I'll have my browser on the right side of the page. I'll make a change over here. If I don't like it, I'll change it again, and then I'll save it, and then I'll bring it back up over here on the right side and take another look at it. Okay, so it's a good tool. You can kind of split your screen up. And then finally, we're going to just mention that, if you really want to see what it's going to look like when it's printed, certainly you can print the web page at any time. This might be useful for those that want to take something and use it in the classroom. Okay, so print works exactly the same way. Okay, almost finished. We're going to talk for a second about distributing the web page. One of the nice advantages of a web-based lesson is the almost unlimited access that your students can have once you take your web page and put it on a server. Okay, and so we're going to mention here that, again, here's what the two files should look like when you're all finished with it. The dinosaur homepage, which you see here, is an HTML page at the bottom, followed by or on top of the directory or the folder that has all of your files in it. So what happens is, as you're finishing up and you're saving these things, all of the related files will be put into this single folder. Any pictures will be in there. Any sound files will be in there. What else? Sound files. What else would be? Oh, any other media like a video or whatever it might be. Those will all be here because they're being referenced by this home page. But here's the secret now, and something you really want to make sure that you highlight both in your textbook. It's like paragraph 8.6.1 and in your notes, and that is you have to locate all of your files in the same physical directory to avoid any kind of problems, because browsers don't like to go looking for things. If it's not in the same folder as the dinosaur homepage, it's not going to find it, okay? And so to avoid those kind of problems, always try to use a common media. You can put it on your hard drive, you can put it on a jump drive, you can give it to your school's technology coordinator and have him or her put it on the school web. But when you do that, all files must be in one folder. It's also an excellent organizational tool when you begin to move your web files around. So Word will produce two files, this executable file and then the folder that has all the contents in it. Okay. All right. I think, yeah, we're done. Part 2, hopefully you watched part 1 first, but part 2 of our video concludes basically part 2 of our textbook, which was developing technology-based materials. Basically, basic technology-based materials. As we move through the course and you move into the textbook, we're going to be looking next at part 3 that covers advanced technology-based materials. And again, you're going to look through the process of developing something that I call the Hyperbook, the interactive lesson, and the virtual tour. So, hope you enjoyed part 2 of the video. Make sure that you watch both parts of it and then follow the instructions in your syllabus for finishing up your design of web-based materials and adding those to your course.